In a world that seems to get more chaotic by the day, there's a really big question that every single organization has to face. I mean, it's a huge question, right? When everything goes sideways, how come some companies just seem to roll with the punches, while others just completely fall apart? What's their secret? Well, the answer really comes down to one powerful idea. You've definitely felt this. We all have. Those global supply chains we thought were so perfectly efficient, turns out they can be incredibly fragile. One little shock can cause ripples everywhere. And it's not just supply chains. The markets are all over the place. I mean, the strategy that was brilliant yesterday is basically useless today, which makes those old school 5-year plans seem kind of pointless, doesn't it? So what's the bottom line? Constant, unpredictable change? That's just how things are now. It's the new normal. And if your strategy is built like a rigid brick wall, well, it's not a matter of if it'll crack under pressure, but when. So here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. We'll start with that rigidity trap, then get into the flexibility advantage. We'll break down its 3 main pillars, see how it looks in the real world, and wrap up with a playbook you can actually use. Okay, so let's get into the solution. See, instead of building these rigid walls, the smartest organizations are figuring out how to bend. They're ditching those stiff structures and embracing a strategy that's way more adaptive. The big idea here has a bit of a fancy name: multidimensional flexibility. But listen, the most important word in that whole definition is integrated. This isn't just about having a plan B. No, it's about weaving this idea of being adaptable into everything you do: your high-level strategy, your day-to-day operations, and even the tech you rely on. So that sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Well, it all comes down to 3 core pillars that have to work together to create a company that can truly adapt to whatever comes its way. Okay, first up, strategic flexibility. This is the 30,000-foot view. It's asking, can we quickly change suppliers if we need to? Can we adjust our financial plans on the fly? Then you've got operational flexibility. This is on the ground in the trenches. Can your teams and your systems pivot quickly without everything grinding to a halt? And finally, you have technological flexibility. This is what brings it all together, using tech like AI and real-time data to react instantly. You see how they're all connected? You can't really have one without the others. This all makes sense on paper, but what does it look like in the real world? When things get messy. Let's take a look at a couple of areas where this stuff really matters. Let's start with the one that's been giving everyone a massive headache lately: supply chains. This is where being too rigid has caused some serious pain for a lot of companies. So check this out. It really highlights a tough choice companies have to make. On one hand, you've got a classic strategy like dual sourcing, having 2 suppliers. It's a proven way to build in some safety. On the other hand, you have these new AI-based systems, which are actually way better when the risk of disruption is high, even if they might cost more. So what's the big takeaway here? There's no one-size-fits-all answer. Real flexibility means understanding the pros and cons and knowing which tool to use and when. That look, flexible systems and fancy AI, that's only part of the puzzle. Because an organization's biggest strength and its biggest potential for flexibility is its people. And this quote from a 2024 study just nails it. What this is really saying is that when a crisis hits, you can throw the rulebook out the window. It's the people, their skills, their ability to think on their feet who save the day, not some rigid procedure manual. An adaptable person is always going to be more valuable than a perfect plan. In fact, the research on this was just crystal clear. When they looked at everything that makes up human resource flexibility, one thing just blew everything else away: skill flexibility. That ability for people to take what they know and apply it to new, unexpected problems was the single most important factor. The number 1 predictor of whether a team would succeed or fail in a crisis. Number 1. Okay, so we've talked about the problem and we've talked about the solution. Now for the most important part. How do you actually start building a company that's more resilient? Let's walk through a simple playbook to get you started. It really boils down to 3 key principles. First, you've got to assess your weak points. Get real with yourself. Where are you most brittle? Is it your strategy, your daily operations, your tech? You have to know where the cracks are likely to show. Second, you have to integrate your efforts. It's no good having a flexible strategy if your tech can't keep up. Everything has to be connected and working together. And finally, the most important step of all, empower your people. Invest in them, create a culture that rewards creative thinking, and trust your team to step up when things go wrong, because they are your secret weapon. And that really brings us to one last big question. Because in this world, it's not about if you'll face pressure. You will. The real question is what's going to happen when you do. So I want you to think about your own company, your own team, maybe even just yourself, and ask this. Are you built to bend or are you built to break?